Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to go over how to do the data cleaning homework. So you should have an Excel file that you downloaded from our website on Canvas. And if you've gone ahead and downloaded that, you should click Enable Editing and go ahead and save it somewhere on your OneDrive or wherever you want to save it on your computer, somewhere that you can find it again. Okay, so we're going to do some editing. The instructions are right here in this text box. This is called a text box, which you can move around, and it's kind of long, a lot of instructions. But there's only 8 things that you actually need to do. So just to explain where this data came from, this is from the section search on MyNest. It's all of the sections offered in spring 2026 as of January 19th, 2026. I personally scraped this data set from the web, and I did a little bit of pre-processing using Power Query. Power Query is an advanced tool within Excel that you can use to do data processing and cleaning. I'm probably not going to go over it in this class, but it is really cool thing to play with. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to rename this sheet raw data. So down here where it says section search 26 SP, I'm going to double click that, or you can right click and do rename. And I'm going to type in raw data and I'll just hit enter. Okay, you can also use right click and then rename like that. Okay, then I'm going to make a copy of the sheet called clean data, and I'm going to complete the rest of the instructions in there. So I'm going to right click on the title raw data. I'll do move or copy, or depending on your version of Excel, it might be duplicate. And I'm going to make sure to check create a copy, and then I'll just click OK. So now I have raw data and raw data 2. I'm going to rename raw data 2 as clean data. There's also a third sheet here. I don't remember where that came from. It appears to just be blank. So don't worry about that. So all the rest of these, I'm going to do them in the clean data sheet. Okay, so instruction 2, select cell A1. So I'm just going to click on it. Go to the Home tab or the Home menu and do Format as Table. And select any color scheme you like. So for me, it looks like this. Click Format as Table, and I'll just pick one, maybe the blue one today. And the instructions do say, make sure to select my table has headers, which is this checkbox here, because we do have column headers along the top row. And then usually this range that is suggested is correct, so just click OK for that. Okay, and now you see we've formatted it like this with colors, and we have drop-down menus along the top here that we can use to sort by the columns or to filter. Okay, so we've completed instruction 2. Next thing is to delete a bunch of columns that we don't need. They don't have any useful information. First one is the scrape page. That's like from me downloading the 27 pages. So I'm gonna just click on the A above that column and then right click, delete. It's pretty easy. And then there's just a bunch of these. So instructional methods over here, we can delete that one. Notice it does like make my text box smaller. You can move around and resize this text box yourself if you want to. We're also going to do column 10, basically all the ones that don't have a real title. The title is just column and then a number. So I'm going to do this one, column 10. And then I'll scroll over. I'm going to do column 12. We'll select these 3 together. Delete those. Column 18. You might think some of these don't have any data, but actually it's only like certain rows that have data in them. So we do actually need those. Column 20, I'm going to delete that. And then I think the other one was waitlisted, which it's just something we don't use at SU. We don't use the waitlist feature for sections. And was there one more? Oh yeah, I think the comments and the bookstore columns. We don't use those. Okay, and some of them you might think they all have the same entry, like this one, but actually we do have a few graduate classes here at SU, so there should be a few of these that say master's program, although I'm not seeing them. They're there somewhere. Okay, so that was instruction 3. We've done that. Now for number 4, sort the column term from Z to A using the drop-down menu. Okay, so let me move the box. And I'm going to click the drop-down menu next to term, sort Z to A. Okay, so now rows 2 to 27 should all have the same entries, which are partial copy of the column titles. Yeah, so you see these rows here, down to 27. They're all basically the same. They're just a copy of the column titles, or some of the column titles. And that's because of the way I scraped the data. I downloaded 27 different web pages and then like stitched them together. Because my Nest will not let you see like the entire section data on one web page. So basically we're just going to delete those rows. So I'm going to click from the number 2 here. So click right on the 2 and then drag down to 27. And then I'm going to right click anywhere on these row numbers and then do delete. Okay, so the entire rows should be gone. And I may have also just made my text box here smaller. Yeah, so you see the text is kind of overflowing out of the bottom. We can just make that bigger to see the whole box again. Okay. Instruction 5 here. So there are a whole bunch more rows at the bottom from 787 to 1380. If you scroll down here, you might think this is just like, oops, how did I get, oops, I'm sorry, I keep like getting off of the scroll bar. You might think it just stops here, but actually, because you can't scroll like this little part over here, you might have like, it might look like there's nothing else or like this is just blank Excel, but actually, if you select somewhere here in this blank looking part and you do shift control, or not shift control down, but just control down or command down, you'll see that the table actually stops, really stopped after row 1380. So all of that colored part there, those colored empty rows, Excel actually thinks those are part of the table. So we can just delete those. And the reason it's doing that is, again, because of the way I scraped the data, there was like some extra garbage from the web pages that just kind of got thrown in, and it thought it was part of the data, but it wasn't. So there's a couple ways to do this, to delete that many rows all at the same time. You could do it the way we deleted the rows at the top. So like just go to row 787 and then click and drag from 787 down to 1380. That's probably the most straightforward way to do it, but it's not the easiest way. Oh, why can I not click in here? Okay, so just click and, oh, wait a minute. I just accidentally changed the row height instead. Okay, so select row 787 and then just click and drag down those numbers until you get to 1380. It's not that far. So that's one way to do it, and then just right click, delete. The actually easiest way to do it is if you select row 787. Now you're going to hold down shift because you want to expand your selection. Shift is for expanding a selection. And if you start clicking the down arrow, it's going to select more rows. So you could just hold down the down arrow until you get to the bottom. But there's a special way to get to the bottom directly, and that's to do control and then the down arrow. So you're going to hold down shift and control and then press the down arrow once, boop, and it expands your selection all the way to the bottom. It's a pretty useful thing to know. So I'm going to right click and delete. So whichever way you do it, just delete all those rows so that we don't have these weird blank regions in the table. Okay, so that was number 5. Now for number 6, now that we deleted all the unwanted rows, every entry in term is actually the same. It's spring 26. That's the only semester I downloaded from. So that is no longer a useful column, and we can delete it. Okay, now what you're going to see is if you start looking at the data that's actually in these cells, so we've got all the rows and the columns that we want. If you start looking at what's actually in here, a whole bunch of these have a really annoying thing going on inside them, which is like a bunch of just spaces, like just space, 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 space. I think this has something to do with the way the website was programmed, that they were using spaces to like align things, and they were like programming it with the right number of them. But for our purposes, it's just really annoying and like useless. So what we're going to do is get rid of all those extra spaces that we don't want. The way you can do this is we're going to do a find and replace on the entire sheet. And in order to do a find and replace on the entire sheet, first off, you want to make sure that you don't have just a small region selected like this. Like if I just select a small region of cells, it'll only do the find and replace in those cells. So I want to make sure I just have one cell selected. It can be any cell, just as long as it's not like a whole region. Or you could even select the whole sheet by clicking on the little triangle thing in the upper left corner. Either way. So I'm just going to click on one random cell. And then what I'm going to do is go to Home, and then Find and Select, and then Replace. Now, one thing that you might notice is you can actually do a find and replace in this text box, and that's not what you want to do. So you do have to make sure that you're actually clicked like onto a cell somewhere and not onto the text box. Okay, so what you're going to do is Home. I think for me it's under Editing, Find and Select, and then Replace. And now what you're going to do is in your Find What box, you're going to just type 2 spaces, space, space. And then in your Replace With box, you're going to type 1 space, space. Okay, so you're replacing 2 spaces with 1 space. And now what you're going to do is you're going to click Replace All, and you're going to see that it did 42,670 replacements. There is a lot of spaces in this file. But you know what? That wasn't all of them. That was not all of them. So go ahead and click OK. And instruction 8, which is the last instruction, is just saying, actually, that wasn't all of them. Keep going. Because if you look at, like, for example, this column here, first room, there are still extra spaces in here. So why did that happen? If you think about it, wherever you had 4 spaces in a row, and you did the replacement of every 2 spaces with 1 space, basically, if you had 4 spaces in a row, then the first 2 got replaced with 1 space, and the second 2 got replaced with 1 space, but that still left 2 spaces. So basically, you just have to keep going, doing this replacement of every 2 spaces with 1 space. So just keep clicking Replace All. Oh, right, and you may see this sometimes when you're actually clicked onto the text box. This means that you were clicked in the text box and not in the sheet, in the spreadsheet. So just hit OK or Escape and come out here and click somewhere in the actual cells again. Just click on one of them and then do Replace All again. Okay, and you should see we did about half as many replacements as before, 21,000. And you're just going to keep clicking this, keep clicking it. As long as it keeps finding spaces, you can keep replacing doubles with singles. And eventually you get to there's nothing left to replace. And at that point, you're done. There are still some issues, some other things that we could clean. Like, for example, in the first room column, we got down to only single spaces, but every entry starts with a single space. There are at least like 5 ways that I know of to get rid of that starting single space in front of every entry, but none of them are easy. So I'm not going to ask you to do that. Later on, I might show you a few ways to deal with it. I'm sure this seems like such a tedious issue, like who cares about this starting space? But really, guys, like if you are on the job someday and you're trying to like make some charts and pie graphs and stuff, like you want to have everything, you know, all your I's dotted and your T's crossed and look really clean and perfect. So you might want to get rid of those starting spaces. Okay, but for today's purposes, that was everything in the homework. So make sure you're able to do all of those things and you will be ready to take the quiz during next class. And I'll see you again in another video.